Spring sunlight streamed into the luxurious neighborhood of Greenwich, Connecticut. In the living room of the Hamilton residence, a colonial-style mansion characterized by its white walls and black front door, the usual tension lingered in the air. Only the faint hum of the latest Sub-Zero refrigerator broke the silence. "Mary, are you planning to serve homemade scones at today's tea party?" Barbara Hamilton cast a contemptuous glance while seated on an antique Ethan Allen sofa. Dressed in a Ralph Lauren tweed jacket, she exuded the authority of her former position as a private school teacher. The afternoon tea party with the First Presbyterian Church elders was her perfect opportunity to demonstrate her social influence. "Yes, Mother. I prepared them last night. I plan to serve them with Earl Grey tea imported from England," Mary replied calmly. With her brown hair tied back and wearing a modest jade crew dress, she maintained her usual humble demeanor. Despite graduating with honors and currently working as a project manager at an IT company, she was always treated as an outsider in this house. "Well, perhaps something from Whole Foods would have been better, for someone of your background," Catherine snickered from the corner of the living room, dressed in Lululemon yoga wear while glancing at her smartphone. Preoccupied with her Instagram follower count, she was busy promoting her yoga studio. At that moment, the golden retrievers Max and Bella quietly approached Mary's feet. She naturally stroked their heads with gentle affection. The two dogs contentedly narrowed their eyes on the expensive Persian carpet. Though Barbara had purchased them for show to impress the neighbors, Mary had taken on all their actual care. "The dog's fur will get on your clothes. Get away. Besides, weren't they groomed last week? They smell a bit," Barbara grimaced. In reality, Mary had been taking them to a specialist shop every week without fail for grooming. The sound of the heavy front door opening announced John Hamilton's return home. As an architect running his own firm, he had recently enhanced his regional reputation by successfully completing a historical building renovation project in Greenwich. His Brooks Brothers suit emphasized his sincere character. "I'm home. It's warm today," said John, with his short black hair and kind eyes, heading straight to Mary and kissing her cheek. His wedding ring gleamed in the sunlight. "Welcome home, dear. How did today's meeting go?" Mary smiled at her husband. They had met 3 years ago at a charity event at St. Mary's Church. Mary, successful as an IT project manager, had captured John's heart with her intellectual charm. Though they married at the same church after a year of dating, Barbara and Catherine had never welcomed her from the start. "Yes, it was perfect. More importantly, the scent of Mary's scones is wonderful," John said, happily sniffing his wife's homemade treats and giving her a warm smile. Beautiful arranged scones sat on the kitchen island counter. "Mary, would you mind not attending tomorrow's event at First Presbyterian Church?" Barbara said while placing an expensive porcelain cup on the marble coffee table. "My friends will be there, especially Mrs. Williamson. Someone of your background wouldn't fit in. Besides, don't you have the dogs to take care of?" "Mother," John started to protest, but Mary gently took his hand and stopped him. She had endured the family tensions for 3 years. "I understand, Mother. It's time for Max and Bella's walk anyway." Through the living room's large windows, the beautifully maintained garden was visible, with roses and hydrangeas blooming in various colors and a fountain flowing with crystal-clear water. Looking at this scene, Mary was strengthening her resolve. Coming from a middle-class family and graduating college on a scholarship, she had never known how to give up. Max and Bella rested their heads on her lap. Their warmth gave Mary strength. The setting sun beyond the garden dyed this moment of quiet determination in red. One afternoon with soft spring sunlight streaming in, Mary had returned early from work. A pure white luxury envelope placed at the entrance caught her eye. Picking it up, she felt the texture of high-quality paper against her fingertips. A wedding invitation with the Hyatt Regency Greenwich's logo embossed in gold. From Catherine Hamilton and James Anderson. Mary's hands trembled slightly. Looking through the seating chart, as expected, her name was nowhere to be found. Next to her husband John Hamilton's name was a blank seat, as if erasing her very existence. She immediately reached for her phone to contact John. After a brief ring, her husband's calm voice answered. "Mary? What's wrong?" "John. Catherine's wedding invitation arrived." "But..." John immediately understood the situation from his wife's halting voice. "I'll come home right away. I'll check with Mother and Catherine." Right after hanging up, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw Barbara and Catherine, appearing as if they had planned this timing. "Mary, did you receive the invitation?" Barbara entered the living room with her usual haughty attitude. Behind her, in her Ralph Lauren tweed suit, Catherine wore a devious smile. "Yes, Mother. However, on the seating chart, my name." That, Barbara began. "It's Catherine's wish. She doesn't want you there." "Have I done something wrong?" Mary's voice remained calm, though she was deeply shaken inside. Max and Bella huddled anxiously at her feet, looking up at her. "No particular reason," Catherine interjected, in her Lululemon yoga wear, smartphone in hand. "Just that having someone like you, a maid, would ruin the atmosphere of my special day." "A maid?" "Yes, the dog's caretaker." "That's your role, isn't it?" Catherine laughed coldly. "A maid should just stick to taking care of the dogs." Barbara nodded in agreement. "You're not real family, after all," she said with a malicious smile. At that moment, the heavy front door burst open with a loud bang. John rushed in, his face etched with anger she had never seen before. "What have you?" John's voice trembled. His Brooks Brothers suit projected an intimidating presence, completely opposite to his usual gentle demeanor. "Mother, Catherine. Explain yourselves right now." "Johnny, we were just..." Catherine tried to make excuses. "Quiet," John's voice resonated with quiet authority. "Mary is my wife. Denying her is denying me. I don't need family like that." Barbara's face turned pale. "But you, consider your social position." "Position?" John scoffed. "Mother, your so-called a position isn't worth a fraction of Mary's worth." Catherine tried to speak, but John cut her off. "Enough. Removing my wife's name from the seating chart is unforgivable. This is your last chance. If you have any apology for Mary, make it now." A heavy silence dominated the living room. The expensive chandelier's light illuminated the frozen atmosphere. "Apologize?" Catherine sniffed. "It's my wedding. Shouldn't I decide who to invite?" True, John's voice rang icily. Then I won't attend either. Moreover. At that moment, Mary quietly stood up. In her and tailor dress, she was strangely composed. John, it's all right, she gently held her husband's hand. I don't mind. Rather. She smiled while petting Max and Bella. Let me take care of the dogs. They're innocent in this. At these words, Barbara and Catherine exchanged glances. There was something unsettling about Mary's attitude, a strange determination. Let's go, John. Mary took her husband's hand. Let's have dinner out tonight. Max, Bella, be good. After they left, Barbara and Catherine remained in the luxurious reception room, feeling an inexplicable chill down their spines. Surrounded by expensive furniture, they were haunted by the premonition that they had started something irreversible. From late spring to early summer, Mary and John steadily advanced their plans. Their new home was in a location comfortably distant from Greenwich's luxury residential area. A house with a spacious yard where the dogs could roam freely. The dogs will be happy here, Mary smiled gently while signing the contract with the real estate agent. In her and tailor navy suit, she maintained her usual modest demeanor but emanated strong determination. Yes, without a doubt, John placed his hand on his wife's shoulder. The clean impression from his Brooks Brothers suit reflected his sincere character. The preparations proceeded meticulously. Mary kept detailed daily records. Her smartphone camera documented Barbara and Catherine's negligent treatment of the dogs, forgotten feedings, neglected walks, indifference to veterinary care. Everything was chronologically organized and perfectly compiled as submission materials for animal welfare organizations. Yesterday too, Barbara didn't even notice when Max wasn't feeling well, Mary said while uploading evidence photos to the cloud at her computer. On her desk were numerous awards proving her IT company career. Her achievements as a project manager earning $80,000 annually completely negated the derogatory label of a maid. They never tried to see your true worth, John said, spreading out renovation plans for their new home as soon as he returned from his architectural firm. Everything was carefully thought out, special spaces for the dogs, comfortable living flow lines. But that's fine. By not noticing, they'll lose something precious. Mary's voice held no sadness. Instead, it was filled with quiet determination. Legal preparations were also thorough. Evidence photos and records of animal abuse were submitted to Greenwich's most respected law firm. Barbara's verbal abuse was clearly recorded by high-performance recording equipment. This is clearly a case of animal abuse, the lawyer nodded while reviewing the materials. Especially, purchasing expensive purebreds for show while neglecting proper care constitutes a serious violation under state law. Preparations for the new house continued steadily. Carefully selected furniture from luxury stores would soon adorn Mary and John's new life. An Ethan Allen sofa, latest Sub-Zero refrigerator, and most importantly, numerous comfortable facilities for the dogs. The meeting with the moving company is also complete. Mary marked the final checkbox on her schedule. The perfect plan was proceeding toward the wedding day. And finally, that day arrived. Early morning, before dawn in Greenwich. A large truck quietly pulled up beside the Hamilton mansion. Here is scheduled, Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton. The moving company staff swiftly began work as previously arranged. Luxury furniture, mementos, and most importantly, crucial documents. Everything was transported to the new home. "Max, Bella, let's go to our new home," Mary called the two dogs, who wagged their tails happily, as if they had been waiting for this day. As a final touch, Mary carefully arranged a series of documents on the living room's central table. Numerous awards proving her career, evidence photos and detailed records of animal abuse, purchase contract for the new house, and John's handwritten declaration of severance. It's done. In the kitchen, she left records of the dog's care, daily feeding, walks, veterinary visits. Clear evidence of how Barbara and Catherine had viewed the animals as mere tools. "Ready?" John asked gently. "Yes," Mary smiled in response. "But one last thing." She attached a photo to the living room wall. It was a close-up of where her name had been erased from the wedding invitation. Beside it, a document transcribing Barbara and Catherine's verbal abuse. "Now, let's go." Mary and John quietly left the house with Max and Bella. Their expressions showed no trace of regret as they got into the luxury car. As the sun began to rise, the car drove off toward their new life. In the back seat, the two dogs cuddled happily together. They too were about to find true happiness as members of their new family. The old residence reflected in the rearview mirror grew smaller, dissolving into the morning mist. Left behind was a world full of pretense and prejudice. The wedding was lavishly held at the Hyatt Regency Greenwich. Catherine, dressed in a highest-end designer wedding gown, perfectly played the part of an Instagram-worthy bride. Barbara strutted around the luxury venue in her custom Ralph Lauren dress as if she owned the place. However, throughout the ceremony, John's seat remained empty. "Johnny isn't feeling well." Barbara repeatedly made this excuse to concerned relatives and friends. However, the First Presbyterian Church elder's eyes held a hint of doubt. Late that night, Barbara and Catherine returned to their stately colonial-style mansion in a black limousine. "Well, the wedding was a huge success," Catherine said proudly, lifting the hem of her expensive dress. "It was really better without that maid." "Yes, indeed," Barbara agreed, but there was a slight anxiety in her voice. Because as they approached the entrance, they had already noticed something was wrong. "Max? Bella?" Catherine called out, but there was no usual greeting from the dogs. Opening the heavy black front door, an unusual silence enveloped them. The expensive chandelier's light illuminated the eerily quiet space. "Mary? Where are the dogs?" Barbara's voice echoed emptily through the spacious hall. No response. "No way." The moment Barbara stepped into the living room, she froze. On the table was a neatly organized pile of documents. On the walls, countless photos were posted. The space surrounded by luxury furniture had transformed into a courtroom indicting their crimes. "This is..." Catherine picked up one photo. It clearly documented the dogs, unfed and unwalked. Detailed records accompanied the dated photos. "What does this mean?" Barbara picked up another document with trembling hands. It detailed Mary's brilliant career. Numerous achievements at her IT company, an annual salary statement of $80,000, team leader evaluation reports. The fact that the woman they had scorned as a maid was actually a highly capable professional was mercilessly revealed. In the kitchen were the dog's care records. records Mary had kept without fail every day. They clearly showed how Barbara and Catherine had viewed the animals as mere tools. "Mother, this..." Catherine's voice trembled. A letter placed in the center of the table. It was John's declaration of severance. "Mother, Catherine. You don't seem to truly understand what your actions mean. Calling Mary a maid, excluding her from the wedding, trampling on her human dignity. This isn't just a family dispute. This is an issue of basic human ethics. Mary earns $80,000 annually as an IT project manager, leading many subordinates. Her background and abilities far exceed your imagination. However, more important is her character as a human being. She has sincerely cared for the dogs you purchased for show and then neglected. You might not understand her affection and sense of responsibility. As of today, we are completely severing ties. Max and Bella are coming with us, of course. Detailed records and evidence have already been submitted to animal welfare organizations. Goodbye, John." "No. Johnny." Barbara's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the expensive sofa while Catherine meaninglessly fiddled with her new wedding ring. This must be a dream, it has to be. But it was undeniable reality. More than half of the house's furnishings were gone, and the dog's living area was completely cleared out and even disinfected. "My social position." Barbara's murmur had an empty ring. Her standing at First Presbyterian Church, her reputation in Greenwich society, everything was at risk. The evidence of animal abuse was too clear. Catherine's smartphone rang with an Instagram notification. Her followers were beginning to comment on her wedding photos. But now, they painfully understood the ugly truth hidden behind those glamorous photos. "What should we do now?" Barbara's question dissolved into the cold air of the luxurious reception room. Surrounded by expensive furniture, they felt true loneliness for the first time. Spring sunlight poured down on the quiet residential area. Mary and John's new home stood at a comfortable distance from Greenwich. In the spacious garden, colorful flowers bloomed in profusion, and clear water flowed from a fountain. "Bella, Max, come here." At Mary's call, the two golden retrievers came running happily. Their coats were glossy, their eyes bright with life. Mary, in her casual and tailored dress, happily petted the two dogs. A year had passed. Mary had been promoted at work, rising to department head with an annual salary of $120,000. John's architectural firm was also thriving, with his reputation in the region growing even stronger. "Is everything ready for today's garden party?" John came out to the garden wearing a casual Brooks Brothers shirt. The table was set with Mary's homemade scones and cakes, alongside an elegant tea set. Yes, perfect. Their reputation in the new community was surprisingly high. Their sincere and warm personalities, along with their deep love for animals, had captured many hearts. Meanwhile, in Greenwich, Catherine's marriage had fallen apart in just 6 months. Her husband's infidelity was discovered through Instagram direct messages. Her influencer activities also rapidly lost support as rumors of animal abuse spread. Barbara's situation was even more miserable. The First Presbyterian Church elders took the animal abuse seriously and removed her from important church positions. In Greenwich society, fewer and fewer homes invited her. Johnny, mother wants to reconcile. Catherine sent numerous emails. However, John's resolve was firm. They'll never understand what true family means, John said, embracing Mary's shoulders. The garden party began. New friends arrived one after another, a university professor couple from the neighborhood, the local animal welfare organization's representative, John's architectural firm clients. They were all touched by Mary and John's sincerity and dedicated love for animals. "Mary, the garden design is wonderful," one friend exclaimed. Mary smiled gently. "Thank you. But the real credit goes to these two," she pointed to Max and Bella playing on the lawn. The two dogs were happily playing with visiting children. Their expressions were completely different from the worried looks they had shown at Barbara's house. During the party, Mary's smartphone rang. A message from an acquaintance in Greenwich. "Mrs. Barbara has been removed from the church's deacon board too. The events at Catherine's wedding have finally come to light." Mary didn't finish reading the message, putting her smartphone back in her pocket. She had no need to look back at the past now. "Everyone," Mary raised her glass. "I'm truly happy to celebrate our first anniversary of our new life with dear friends today." John held his wife's hand. Max and Bella nestled at their feet. True family isn't about blood ties or social status. It's about relationships where we care for and support each other. That's the answer we've found. In the spring twilight, warm laughter echoed through the garden. Champagne glasses sparkled, and the scent of roses wafted through the air. In this happy space, Mary and John spent peaceful moments with their new, true family. Away from the bustle of the luxury residential area, in this quiet place, they had found genuine happiness. It was something that Barbara and Catherine, in their arrogance, would never understand. Max and Bella smiled contentedly on the sunlit lawn.